Okay, Bible and Daily Lifers, we are going through the whole Bible and we're going through it in a year. So we're going to jump back a little bit. We're in the book of Exodus when we did the Ten Commandments. And that is going to be the rules, the laws, the way that these people are going to live. Now, they're living in a theocracy. And as a theocracy, what that means is that God is their president. God is their king. God is their prime minister. God is their ruler. They have no king. They have no president. They have no prime minister. They have God. But as such, in God being the one who rules over them, in the theocracy, theo meaning God, ocracy meaning government. God is their government. Now, that doesn't mean there's not going to be issues. There's going to be issues in living out these commands and the rest of the laws that we had seen on there. So how will these things be negotiated? How will some of the things that come up in the community be reconciled? How will people get along? How will justice happen? Well, they're a tribes of Israel. There's 12 of them. They're sons. And so overgrown families tend to become tribes. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Jacob has 12 boys. And so those 12 boys have grown into huge families, each represented by the name of the son. And so they're going to have tribal leaders. And they're going to be one nation, but 12 tribes. And each tribe is going to be allotted their own place to live. They're going to be allotted their own place when they're in the wilderness around the tabernacle. And they are going to have people that are going to make decisions about what's going on in these issues of relationship and legal issues. Well, how will that happen? Well, they're tribal, and as such, they're going to have elders. What does that mean? We're going to see right now, because this is going to play through the whole Bible. God is the ruler, wants to be, doesn't want them to have a king. They will end up taking a king, but there's another system that's underlying all the way through, this system called elders. And the elders really are pastors, shepherds. They're trying to help people reconcile their differences together so that people can live in peace. So, let's read about it. Chapter 18 of Exodus. Now Jethro, the priest of Midian, the father-in-law of Moses, heard of everything God had done for Moses and his people, Israel, and how the Lord had brought them out of Egypt. Now, Jethro seems to have a conversion. What kind of a priest is he? He's the priest of Midian. We don't know what kind of spirituality, what kind of thoughts, what kind of myths, what kind of ideas he had. But it seems that when he hears about what God has done for Moses and has done for Israel, he's converted. He believes in the true and the living God. After Moses had sent away his wife Zipporah, so when Moses went into Egypt, he sent his wife back to her dad so he could do the duty of being the representative of God before Pharaoh. His father-in-law Jethro received her and her 2 sons. One son was named Gershom, for Moses said, I've become a foreigner in a foreign land. The other was named Eliezer, for he had said, my father's God was my helper. He has saved me from the sword of Pharaoh. So those names mean something. Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, together with Moses' sons and wives, came to him in the wilderness, as he's now come out of Egypt, where he was camped near the mountain of God. And Jethro sent word to him, and he said, I, your father-in-law Jethro, am coming to you with your wife and your 2 sons. So there's obviously some people in between where all the people are gathered, and they have some guys out there, sort of guards, what's going on? Is anybody coming to bother the community? So Moses went out to meet his father-in-law, and he bowed down and he kissed him, showing just absolute signs of respect. He loved the guy. They greeted each other, and then they went into the tent. Moses told his father-in-law about everything the Lord had done to Pharaoh and the Egyptians for Israel's sake, and about all of the hardships they had met along the way, and how the Lord had saved them. Now, the Lord had delivered them. It doesn't mean there's no difficulties along the way. The Lord has saved many of us who are, together fellowshipping here, assembled together this way. It doesn't mean there's no hardships for us. Sometimes coming to Christ brings new hardships. But God is with us and will always be with us, as he was with Moses. And Moses told the stories. He just wasn't telling good stories. He was telling the whole story. So Jethro was delighted to hear about all the good things that God had done for Israel in rescuing them from the hand of the Egyptians. And he said, "Praise be to the Lord, who rescued you from the hand of the Egyptians and Pharaoh, and who rescued the people from the hand of the Egyptians. Now I know the Lord is greater than all of the other gods." This is what we're saying. It's converted. "Now I know the Lord is greater than all the other gods, for he did this to those who had treated Israel arrogantly." Then Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, brought a burnt offering and other sacrifices to God, and Aaron came with all the elders of Israel to eat a meal with Moses' father-in-law in the presence of God. So, gets converted, they're sharing together, having a meal together, and the next day Moses took his seat to serve as a judge for all of the people. And they stood around him from morning till evening, waiting in line to talk to Moses. Well, this is the way it used to be at the motor vehicle office. You'd go down there at 8 o'clock in the morning only to get done at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, stand there all day long. Well, thankfully, now you can do a lot of that stuff online. But they were standing in line, waiting, and when his father-in-law saw all that Moses was doing for the people, Moses was serving the people. He was doing this for the people. He said, "What are you doing for the people? Why do you alone sit as judge? While all of these people stand around from morning to evening. What's the deal? It isn't right." And Moses answered him. He said, "Well, the people come to me to seek God's will. And whenever they have a dispute is brought to me, and I decide between the parties and inform them of God's decrees and God's interpretations." So he's a biblical counselor. He's taking God's rules, he's taking God's applications, and he's helping people see how God would have them to live. And Moses' father-in-law, he said, "What you're doing is not good. You and these people who come to you will only wear themselves out. The work is too heavy for you. You can't handle it alone. Number one, you can't do it. You're going to burn out. And the people are just going to get discouraged. Listen to me, and I'll give you some advice, and may God be with you." Now, later on, we'll see that the scripture says that his advice was good advice. It was good, godly advice. And I'll give you some advice, and may God be with you. You must be the people's representative before God, bringing their disputes to him. So he's going to be an intercessor praying for the people. Teach them his decrees and instructions and show them the way that they're to live, which he's going to do when we get to chapter 20, and how they should behave. Pray and teach. Now, this will be the responsibility of elders all through the scripture. What are they supposed to be doing? Praying for people, teaching people. Praying for people, teaching people. Right from the very beginning. Pray for them, teach them. But select capable people from all the people, men who fear God, trustworthy men who hate dishonest gain, and appoint them as officials over thousands, over hundreds, over 50s, and over 10s. So for every 10 people, there was somebody that could represent their interests. Now that's interesting that one person in 10 would be wise enough to be able to do this. Well, I think it's still true. People are wise. God gives wisdom to people. Have them serve as judges for the people at all times, but bring every difficult case to you. The simpler ones, they can just decide themselves. And that will make your load lighter because they will share it with you. And if you do this, and God so commands, let's see if the Lord is into this, you will be able to stand the strain and all of the people will go away satisfied. Great advice. And Moses listened to his father-in-law, did everything he said. He chose capable men from all of Israel. He made them leaders of the people, officials over thousands, hundreds, and 50s and 10s. And so there's this chain of relationship where, if a guy that has the 10, he's confused, he could just go to the next guy and ask him, what's going on? What do I do with this particular case? They served for the judges for the people at all times. The difficult cases they brought to Moses, but the simple ones they decided themselves. And then Moses sent his father-in-law on his way, and Jethro returned to his country. The same thing that it says in the book of Acts, chapter 7, when they 6 and 7, 6, when they were having difficulty, they set apart deacons, and it said we gave them that work. And so the responsibility was given to them. Moses wasn't checking over, hey, what did you say? You trust them. So chapter 19, just one more thing. God is speaking. He says, you yourselves have seen what I did to Egypt and how I carried you on eagle's wings and brought you to myself. Now, if you fully obey and keep my covenant, then out of all the nations, you'll be my treasured possession. You see, he was setting them apart from all of the other nations. This is really important as we go further, that they are set apart from everybody else. Treasured possession. The whole earth is mine, but you will be for me a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. These are the words you're to speak to the Israelites. So there we go. We will continue a little bit more through the law here, Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy, and we'll start to move through the Old Testament, through the intertestamental period and the New Testament. So bless you guys. Love you. Let's keep moving on.